the way that they should deal with this problem and the homeless situation is to put them all on a train and ship them to like Canada. I think you bring up a lot of points, and this is going to be kind of an ongoing topic. I think that we're going to be talking about the, the culture. When you say culture, our culture as a society, this is really global, but it's also national at least. And for us, the state, it's shifting the culture, because there are a lot of people. I actually gave an interview for one of the Second Chance Foundation things about the ranch and stuff. And the neighbors had a big problem because the neighbors of this place that the ranch was going to go had a big problem. And it was an us and them versus thing, right? But here's the thing. The lady that was giving the interview to me at the newspaper said that she had talked to somebody and they were like, they said that the way that they should deal with this problem and the homeless situation is to put them all on a train and ship them to like Canada. And I'm like, okay. Did this person think logically through that there's another version of them in Canada, and now you're trying to pass a problem on? And so what if they did the same thing and they shipped those people to us? I mean, the thing is that each community really needs to take responsibility for kind of where everybody's at.
Yes.
And because you can't just move them around everywhere, because that's another person's home. It's another person's community, right? So I think that, how about this? You're a pastor. What do you think? Couldn't the church take a more active role? Because, I mean, a lot of people in the church would even argue and say, hey, benevolence really was never intended to come from the government. Benevolence really is ordained by the church. So why do you think we don't see the church, and I don't just mean our church or any one church, but the church at large maybe coming together to say, hey, this is a problem in our community. Can we come? Do you think that we can come together, all the churches, denominational lines thrown out, come together and support these folks?
Absolutely. And do I think the church? Your first question was, do I think the church needs to step up and take a bigger responsibility? 1,000% yes. It should be the church that actually steps up and helps shift the culture and bring the change. And that's not out of sight, out of mind. That's, I see you where you're at. I'm coming to you where you're at, and let's walk this out together. Yeah. The biggest thing, the obstacle that I think has happened, and I'm just going to say the bride, that's a churchy word, but that's just the church as a whole. It's not pinpointing a particular church or denomination. But what has happened is those inside the church, the four walls per se, are just as broken as those outside. And addiction inside is just as real as it is outside. Yeah. And so until those that are carrying the name of Christ come to a place of full sobriety and surrender to Jesus Christ, that's when things will begin to shift on a much larger level. And it is about changing the culture, and it does take everyone coming together and linking arms to surround. And it's not to ostracize these people, it's to surround them and to love them and to bring them in and pull them close. And when that happens, and by the way, it is happening, the church is actually getting healed so that she can become effective as she was designed to be. Yeah. But when that happens, everything will change. Towns will change. Cultures will change. Cities will change. Our state will, even Oregon will change.
Yes.
Things will change when the bride steps up. And part of it was, like you said, it was never meant to be the government as we know it, like our state represent. It was never meant to be the government's responsibility. Yeah. It was meant to be our responsibility to step up. But we always want to, like what you were talking about, let's just ship them all to Canada. Yeah. That's just been the easy mentality of people who are broken themselves, who are just like, well, it's not, it's that, not it. Yeah. And no one wants to take responsibility for what's happening. Yeah. And it may not be your fault that this is happening, but until you take responsibility to make the change won't happen.
Yeah, and I think, did you have something, Zach, you wanted to say?
Well, I was just going to say, like, that I've been, without getting really upset here. No, it's,
this must be hitting home there,
right? It is, because I'm done seeing churches play the bench warmer game. And what I've seen personally in my life is churches have the opportunity to say okay to recovery. And honestly, a lot of that came with stuff like, hey, would you like to host an AA meeting? Or would you like to host a Celebrate Recovery? And I've seen so many churches be like, that's just not who we are. I'm like, you mean you don't help people? You know, and it's like, or I've seen them say that's just too risky, or those people are too messy, they're unpredictable. And I'm like, so you just want to live a life of comfort, you want to affect nobody, and you just want to sit there and sing your hymns and thank God where you are and not do anything. Because at the end of the day, as much as I do love every single pastor out there, I'm not trying to rant too hard, but and their communities are really important. The communities that each church has is super important, but every single person in a church is overcoming something. And so if you don't step forward into addressing and willing to accept your role as the church, as part of your church, no matter how big that is in your specific church, to help people in recovery, if you're not even willing to hold on to that, how are you going to help people in your own church that aren't openly struggling with their own substance abuse?
Agreed. And I think here's I want to add this. So in kind of the defense of people who want to shift the problem away, it's really because they don't understand.
Yeah.
And
Completely.
so what that means is the solution is education and awareness, right? Because I believe that if people understood, if the problem was like on their front door, it would be different, right? Which leads me to this, because I don't know if I've been saying this or if people would recognize me as being the guy who have kind of prophetically said this, but I remember in an earlier time period, maybe a couple years ago, or maybe even in my early recovery, when I started to understand more of the epidemic aspect of addiction and how homelessness is rising and all this stuff, it's going to take that, like literally becoming someone's front door for us to see the problem. Meaning it's going to have to become such a nuisance, I think, for some people to realize that you can't just move them away. And I think that's starting to happen. And it's good news and bad news, because the bad news part is that there's more people that are affected by this, which when we don't want that, we don't wish that. But the byproduct of it is that it's really hard to ignore now.
Yep.
So people, it's in your face. Like you go to the store and now you see all the tents. And this is just in Roseburg, but I was driving I went to a funeral, my brother's funeral earlier this year. And I was driving through Portland, I-205. Anybody who's watching this has been through I-205. 5 years ago, 205 was just 205. But now it's like tent cities. It's, oh my gosh, my heart aches because it just happened kind of out of nowhere. So I'm sure we'll be talking kind of more about this fundamental concept. Thank you for checking out this clip from the Position Recovery Podcast. The entire podcast is available on our other channel. There's a link in the description box below, so you can go check it out. The full audio program is available on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Finally, if you'd like access to exclusive members-only content, or maybe you just want to support us in what we're doing financially, head on over to patreon.com/position, where there are a variety of giving levels and one that is perfect for your budget. It's always awesome hanging out with you guys. And remember, many are called, but you are positioned.